No, no, no! That was our way out!
Then we'll make another one.
Hey, it's Andrew out, and I had a chance to check out Star Wars Outlaws at a Summer Game Fest event held by Ubisoft. For those unaware of Star Wars Outlaws, it is a game set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and you take on the role of Kay Vess, a scoundrel looking to swindle her way to a new life. The criminal underworld is a complex one that Kay can take advantage of, pitting the rival gangs against one another. During my time with the game, it was about a little over an hour. I got to play in 3 different sessions. In one, I escaped an Empire base. Another, I scavenged some rare materials from an old ship long ago crashed. And the last, I infiltrated a gang's base to steal a valuable artifact. My time on the Empire base was short, but I did get to see some simple hacking and lockpicking mechanics on display. I imagine it gets more complex, but hacking Outlaws works more or less like Wordle. You have to input a sequence, and if you get one right and it's in the wrong spot, it's yellow, and if it's in the correct spot, it's green. The one I did was only 3 characters long. I'm sure they get more than that the further in the game you go. So it's nothing too crazy. Lockpicking, though, was a little more interesting in that it was rhythm-based. A light and a tone will flash to a beat that you have to then match. It's simple but very satisfying, particularly when the lockpicking got a little more complex. Once I hacked the mainframe to order an evacuation of the hangar, making all the stormtroopers run out away from my ship, it was time to escape. Of course, there were still some enemies in the way. Outlaws is a third-person shooter with some light melee to get you out of a tight spot. Punching a stormtrooper in the face is indeed satisfying. Think Uncharted's melee here. It's nothing too crazy. Outlaws' gunplay is strategic and more deliberate. It's certainly not about running and gunning. Your regular plasma shots are good against the normal fodder, but you'll want to switch to ion shots to take out shields and droids. Then you can stun people to instantly take them out, albeit with a cooldown. That stun shot's the classic one you might remember from A New Hope when the stormtroopers use it on Princess Leia. Kay's trusty blaster doesn't have ammo, but you have a certain amount of shots before it overheats. If you time it right, you can get an instant reload, but in the thick of battle, it's not an easy thing to consistently do. Think the active reload mechanic from Gears of War. Enemies can also take a bit of a hit, so making sure your shots count is key. Getting stuck in a long reload with a bunch of stormtroopers bearing down is exactly where I found myself in the demo, and it made things way more stressful. Of course, there are other tools like grenades and dropped enemy weapons you can use as well. Those are sparse, so using them wisely is a good idea. There's no doubt you can get by with just a blast running from cover to cover, popping out to pick people off one by one, but these stormtroopers are a little more accurate than their movie brethren, so that may not work for long. Eventually, I was able to get on my ship and escape into space. However, some pesky TIE fighters had the audacity to try to stop me. The dogfighting I did get to experience was brief, though it was satisfying and intuitive. It's certainly not quite as complex as Star Wars Squadrons, but Kay's ship is equipped with a few kinds of weapons abilities to get out of a scrap. What I experienced was pretty simple lock-on targeting where you had to keep aimed in a certain reticle to hit your enemy. Standard stuff. Escaping the base introduced me to the wanted system, similar to that in the Grand Theft Auto series. The higher the wanted level, the more you've angered the Empire, and they can send some pretty hefty assets to try to kill you. Once I dispatched the TIE fighters, I was able to go to a beacon that cleared my wanted level, essentially clearing the tracking the Empire had on me. After escaping, I was able to fly towards a planet, Toshara Moon. Once you get close to a planet, you'll be prompted with a menu of where to land. This then starts a cutscene to that landing location. I landed in Mirogana to see a bustling city full of people milling about. Unfortunately, I did not have the time or ability in the demo to explore too much, but it was obviously fairly sprawling, and I can't wait to see more of it. The session ended promptly afterward. The next session took me to a crashed ship that had been there a while. I was there to scavenge something from the ship, so I spent my time climbing, parkouring, and figuring out how to get past jammed doors and the like. This is where Outlaws will feel the most familiar. Pretty much any big-budget third-person action game has the exact same exploration mechanics in its climbing and jumping around. Kay can rappel down and swing across gaps, but that's nothing new. I couldn't help but think of comparing it to the Star Wars Jedi series, which features some similar parkour and movement, but has the added elements of force powers to make it more interesting, plus wall running. Kay could use her blaster's ion shot to power up some generators briefly, but that's pretty standard fare as well. Obviously, what I saw and experienced was not exhaustive, so there's a good chance Kay will have some more tools and abilities at her disposal in the full game. The final mission took place on the planet Kijimi, which you may remember from The Rise of Skywalker. Its frigid mountains became a haven for all kinds of criminals, making it the perfect place for Kay to find some opportunities. Essentially, Kay is on Kijimi to break into one of the big gang strongholds and steal an ancient relic from one gang to then give to another gang. Looking around every corner of Outlaws are the various gangs in power. Kay's reputation with one or another will affect how people react to her, and it will of course change how those factions treat her. Keeping a balance, or not if you choose to really hate one of the gangs, is an ever-present part of the decision-making in Outlaws. While going in to steal the relic, Kay's partner, ND5, reminds her she should probably be as quiet as possible and try to go unnoticed as she was stealing from the Crimson Dawn, a faction she had a good relationship with. If nobody is the wiser, then it's a win-win. Stealth in Outlaws has quite a few options, mostly due to Kay's trusty sidekick and pet, Nix. When skulking about, Nix can distract enemies, sabotage items to explode, and even crawl up stormtroopers to detonate the grenades on their belts. With Artifact in hand, I hit the streets of Kijimi. Just as before, I didn't get to explore much, but I did get to take a long guided pathway to the destination of my quest. There was obviously a lot to explore, it was just not open to me in the demo. Kijimi featured a huge city with a ton of people. While running through it, there were points of interest galore. A haven for criminals that we can run around in is the best look we have had yet in the world of scum and villainy in Star Wars. That aspect is what I'm personally the most excited for in Outlaws. What helped set Star Wars apart from the beginning was how so much of the universe is run down, used, and worn. Dirt, grime, and rust cover the daily objects people use. Outlaws is the first time we really get to dig in with what the day-to-day people in the Star Wars universe deal with. Jedi stories are often just too high level and take players to ruins or sterile environments like Empire bases or empty ancient ruins. Star Wars is a rich universe that is now spending some serious time beyond the Jedi, like with The Mandalorian and Andor. Outlaws joins those ranks to further expand the different unique life paths that make Star Wars so interesting. We've had many games where we could be a Luke Skywalker stand-in. Now we've all got a chance to shoot first as our own Han Solo. Be sure to check out TechRaptor for the rest of our Summer Game Fest coverage.
A friend needs a little something stolen.
There.
Let's raise the stakes, shall we?
Gigantic Central Tower.